G'day guys, and welcome to another London session market update video. Been a while, obviously. Been away for the past 6 weeks, so it's good to be back. Been obviously enjoying my time away. Got a little bit of a tan, which is good. But now it's time to get back onto the charts. Apologies for not uploading any content while I was away. Didn't really have access to a proper computer to do so, but nonetheless, I am back. It's good to be back. As always, I'll be doing the analysis on GJ, Gold, GU. I'll have a quick look at, and also NAS. Now, moving forward, guys, the live streams will begin likely at the start of April. May even sneak in a few before the end of March, to be honest. I'll just see how I go. I've come back with a little bit of a cough, so I'm trying to get over that first. So keep an eye out on that. Also, there'll be obviously I'll be dropping a lot of content as far as education. I'll be dropping a lot of YouTube short videos, IG reels, and things like that. So just keep an eye out on my socials, on IG obviously, and YouTube, to see what's going on moving forward. So without further ado, guys, let's have a look, and let's start with, as we usually do, let's start with GJ. So as always, let's start in a weekly time frame, and I'm looking at that previous candle, and that candle suggests to me it is a relatively strong bullish candle. From its open to the close, we can see, well, the close just here, and the highest point of the candle, so it did close back bullish. It closed closer to its high, then obviously back towards its open or near its low. So therefore, I'd consider it to be a strong bullish candle. Now, that suggests to me a long wick to the downside, tapping into this previous resistance over here to the left. What that has likely done is grab some liquidity from the downside. And if we create a higher low, begin to break the high of the previous candle, then likely we're going to continue to the upside. So we already have a high, low, higher, high scenario within the current weekly candle. Just pulling back in a minute, we do form a support and within this current candle in 9 time frames, and really respect the low of the current candle. There is no need to pull back really any further into that previous candle's low, into that previous candle, sorry. Now, what I'd be doing is marking in the current weekly candle's low to begin with. So based off the weekly candle itself, I would call that a strong bullish candle. Now onto the daily time frame. Let's take a proper look at this. I have not done any analysis anyway for the last week anyway. From when I was away, I was posting some updates for some of the guys while I was away, but obviously, yeah, enjoyed the last week away from the computer, away from the laptop. Looking at the daily, we can see that's the highest point Mark got to, so I'm looking to the left of that, and where was the last 2 more consecutive candle pullback. Obviously got it just here, so therefore that whole swing would be where point where structure will actually flip back bearish had we closed below it. So we can see we have not closed below it. Therefore, I would call this bullish in structure. Once again, we've got candles of high lows, high highs also printing. So that gives us probabilities to the upside. So we're bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily. For our structure, let's take a look at that. All right, so that is low. Swing point, we've obviously flipped it back bullish. Currently running into a bit of traffic to the left hand side here, a bit of resistance you could call it. What I'm going to do is just going to mark in the most recent resistance we've formed on that previous 4-hour candle, so it did close back bearish. I'm also going to mark in support. I don't want to mark in this previous level of resistance. This whole level, to me, the level of support, as we can see, this was previous resistance here to the left, a little bit closer to the current price action. We've also formed previous resistance at that point there. Once we pop below it, back into these bodies of these candles, that therefore you're likely to find, once we go down the 30-minute time frame even, probably going to be a bit cleaner once we start to pop back below 189.370. Now, it is a big zone. I may adjust it once I go down to the M30. Structure-wise, we are technically bullish. I'm going to mark in a resistance. Again, this is a whole level resistance to me, so it's not that much room from the high of the current resistance to the next resistance to the left on the 4-hour. However, we are technically bullish down to the M30. Not going to, well, we'll mark into the downside. Let me go back quickly. Going to be a big zone. Going to draw on the most recent support, which is just here. Once again, I may adjust that in the M30. All right, so now onto the M30. All right, so as we can see now, once we do pop below that 4-hour resistance, it is a lot cleaner. I've obviously got this clean move up. So I think that level is relevant. Now, the current weekly candle is low. I'm gonna remove that just now because I would not be all that keen selling into that, because he's selling into that previous resistance, which could act as support. Yeah, not only that, there's just not really enough margin. I feel you've got some more minor support within the overall 4-hour resistance. At that point there, price could bounce off. So I believe I'll leave it marked up as so, the zones. And what I would say is on GJSM 30 structure wise, that is the high, that is low. We're technically bullish. So it's bullish across the board, therefore I would prefer to buy it. Not the cleanest area though, to be honest. We're just consolidating, not really any clear price action. What I'd like to see is upon continuation above the current daily candles high, I feel there could be options to buy it back up towards 190.30. Have some probably enough margin to take it back up to that 4-hour resistance. You might be, but what I probably prefer to see is a nice closure above it. That back in continuation, if that occurs closer to the open, that could be a potential option. So buys above the high at that point, I would feel pretty comfortable looking for that. Now, also, further buy options. Now, what I want to see, if price pulls back into this 4-hour zone, let's just say it makes a relatively clean move down, seeing it's quite choppy just now. That's through a bit of this mess. I'm not interested in selling it just now. I want to see what happens within this gray zone. So if we pull back, we could pull back a little bit deeper, start to form a bit of structure. So clean move down, start to form a bit of structure back at these lows. Start to maybe pop above that previous level on the 4-hour, the previous 4-hour support. At that point there, if we begin to close above a minor resistance formed at support, I would consider looking for potential buy options at that point. So let it pull back, create a relatively clean move down, form a little bit of structure within this gray zone. And once we start to pop above, create some high lows, high highs, that scenario, that could be a catalyst to look for potential buy options. Now, as for sells, I still not all that keen on sells at this stage until we start to really pop below that 183.70. Obviously, it's a lot cleaner at that point there. Not only that, we would have flipped the M30 structure, so at least we got that on our side. The current daily would have broken its own low after breaking the high of the previous, has no need to pull back and do so. That could also be a further catalyst on GJ to look for the sells. The only other option I consider is if it makes a clean move down, can't get in the sell at that point, pulls back up only to reject yet again around that 190 sort of level, 190.10, and we get our catalyst in price action to sell it from a bit higher up. So that could be the other option. Yeah, that is GJ. Let's move on to gold. All right. Bit rusty with the analysis, guys, so bear with. All right, so looking at gold, looking at the weekly, strong bearish candle, current candle, lower high, lower low already to the previous. What I'll do is just marking that previous weekly candle's low, see if that lines up with any previous support where price could pull back to reject. Looking at the daily, so gold's been a massive uptrend, hasn't it, guys, since it's been away. Daily structure-wise is bullish, but once again, we've got counter probabilities to the downside. Tapping into this previous resistance here to the left, which pretty much lines up with that previous weekly candle's low. Now, see, we're interested to see if we do bounce off it or if we do reject it or continue to the downside. Obviously, some very clean traffic on the daily time frame doesn't mean it's just going to melt. But we are technically bullish with counter probabilities to the downside, with the previous weekly candle being a strong bearish candle. 4-hour structure has, by the looks of it, flipped bearish on that previous candle close. Yep, I would now consider it to be bearish. Had a support though over here to the left. I'm gonna mark in that level. I know it's a bearish candle, but I want to see what if it actually is a bullish candle on the M30. Once again, on the M30 time frame, because that would, I'd then consider this whole area as the support. Now onto the upside, got that level there, and oh, there goes my MetaTrader, guys. Apologies. I'm gonna mark in previous support just to see what happens if price does pull back to retest it. We start to pop above it, or we remain below it, and then we could look for our sell options. If that is the case, if we pop above it, we could obviously begin to look for potential buy options. Now I can just remove that previous weekly candle's low. So they're going to be my zones, guys. Now onto the M30. So we are bearish on the 4-hour. M30 wise, structure has also flipped bearish. I'll leave that in. Now I don't want to drop this down, to be honest. I think I'm just going to do something like that and change it to a 30-minute zone. That's a bearish candle, so I'm not too concerned about that wick, to be honest. What I can see is it's pretty choppy. It's at a very, yeah, I don't really like the range it's within, to be honest, currently trading within. All right, so the M30 structure bearish, so the actual bias is flipped to the downside, believe it or not. 3 time frames to the downside, so therefore I prefer to sell it. The options then to sell it for me would be look for a pullback. We reject this gray zone and remain below that previous 4-hour support. I'll just be looking for my catalyst within price action to look for my potential sells to take it back down towards the current daily candles low, and if we do have the volume momentum, eventually down towards that 2041 sort of level. So for me, sells below pretty much this 4-hour zone. But right now it's just consolidating, so there's really nothing to suggest to me that we're ready to continue bearish or bullish at this stage, to be honest. So I just wait for it to create a bit of a move. Further sell options, I feel once it price starts to pop below this support here at 2038.30, but again, you got a long way to go for that, to wait for that. Just be patient with it. Otherwise, what I'll be looking at is at this point here is where the M30 structure will flip back bullish just here. So for the buys, if we begin to pop back up, create a clean move up to cut through some of this consolidation to the left, then pull back, even if it's within this grain zone, form a bit of support, start to close above that, minor resistance formed at support, that could be options to look for potential buys in that type of scenario. Otherwise, I'd just be patient with it. At the moment, I'd rather sell it, but it's just not giving me nothing. Look at that. That is just pure consolidation. Otherwise, if it sells below at 21.38 or on rejection of 21.50 roughly. So that is gold. Now let me take a look at GU, which I've not really looked at much of late. Alrighty, so let's move on to GU nonetheless. Looking at the weekly, similar to gold, strong bearish candle. Current candle low has not broken below the previous. What I'll be doing is marking the low of that previous candle. Seeing what we've got on the market unless we go down the time frame. So we're technically strong bearish on a weekly. Daily structure wise is technically, it looks like it's still bullish, but counter probabilities the downside does look like we do have some room to move still on that time frame to the downside. If we begin to break below that previous weekly candle's low, shift that across onto the 4-hour structure. That is still technically bullish. Well, so I'm just gonna mark in. Really, it's similar to gold. We got support after support. Yeah, a tricky one really, because this is also going to be a level likely. Anyway, I'm just going to mark in that as well to the downside. As for resistance, we've got a resistance formed at support just now, so that's all right. If we are to look for potential buys, would be options as price begins to pop up that resistance. It's technically still bullish on a 4-hour as well. So at support, technically still bullish on a 4-hour, technically bullish on a daily. And the M30 structure, let's just zoom in on that. That appears to be the low. The left of that. So it's technically bearish. All right. And it's very choppy within this area. To me, that is just nasty price action. I don't think I'd like to get involved in anything unless it makes a clean move to cut through a lot of crap. And if that's the case, then maybe you start consider trading that range. Otherwise, on GU, what I'd be looking at is, and you've got support after support. It's not, the charts aren't great. Not a great day to come back, to be honest. And I am actively looking for trades today, but I won't be forcing nothing if nothing is there. So what I'll be looking at GU is definitely buy options above 1.27580, that point there. Obviously, we've got some clean traffic to the left. Not only that, you flip the M30 structure back bullish, so you need to be patient, wait for a closure above. So the M30 will flip back bullish in line with the overall bias itself. Otherwise, simple. Pull back, grab some more liquidity, reject that 127.50, let it form a little bit of structure at the highs, form a support. As it begins to break below that support, you got your options to potentially sell it back down towards the current daily candles low. Very choppy price action. If we go down to M15, that will resemble an absolute mess, and it does. So yeah, GU not looking great. Further sell options below the previous weekly candles low. However, it is choppy again to the left. You do have support, so you might want to let it break the previous weekly candles low, break the move down, pull back to form a resistance, and at that point there, probably cleaner options to look for a sell on GU. Now let's move on to NAS. Finally, now let me just remove all these drawings. NAS had been a fairly strong uptrend, or very strong uptrend. most part while I was away, but obviously it's made a bit of a pullback of late. So the weekly, I would call that again a strong bearish candle from its open to its low. It's closed closer to its low than its open, so I therefore call that a strong bearish candle. Current candle, I was open with a bit of a gap to the upside. I'll even mark in the low of that candle to see what we've got below it. Maybe irrelevant, but I'll mark it in nonetheless. Looking at daily, structure wise, that's a high, not closed above it. Still technically bullish, not closed below this swing point just here. So we're technically going to be bullish to the upside. Again, previous daily did close back bearish, creating lower highs, lower lows. Current daily really yet to create much of a lower wick. So we'll see what we've got below that point there. Onto the 4 hour, so we're bullish on the daily 4 hour structure. All right, so that was a high, not closed above it, not closed below low. 4 hour structures also technically still remains bullish. Again, I know it's not a bullish candle, so it hasn't technically formed support in 4 hour, but there will be some bullish candles on the M30 at that point, so I'm just going to mark it in nonetheless for the time being and see what we've got below it. Obviously, some very clean traffic once pop below at 17750 sort of level. Technically still bullish enough for, excuse the background, the dog's guys, puppy is here and he makes an absolute noise as soon as anyone bangs on the door or whatever. Apologies. Onto the M30 time frame, and technically bearish. That's the low. That's the point. Actually, that's the close above. It's technically bearish, but almost flipping bullish. I'd prefer to sell it though. This is what I'd be looking at on NAS. I'd be waiting for it to pull back. There's obviously, I'd want it to pull back to retest this level. It's 1840 roughly. It's a bit of a wait, but it's the open of the new weekly candle. Let's look back at the weekly and let's mark in a level that that is a level that price could potentially pull back to when the C candles close with liquidity candles like this. So meaning a long wick to one side, closing, well, in this case, close to its low, leaving a long wick to the upside. Where often you'll find it likely pulls back to grab liquidity within the current weekly candle is around the open of that previous candle before it begins to maybe again form a bit of a resistance on the MON time frame, eventually continue to the downside. So I'd be looking for, and that lines up with that resistance here to the left on the 4 hour. So I'd be looking for price to pull back, tap into that level, form a support around that previous level, and as soon as you get your catalyst, price begins to pop below support, reject, pull away from that support, I'd be looking to sell it back down towards the current daily and previous weekly candles low. Now, obviously below, got some very clean traffic, a little bit of consolidation here to the left. So what you probably want to be doing is though, waiting for a nice closure below that's previous weekly candles low, tap back in towards that 1758 rejection. Again, if you can, look for your stronger catalyst confirmation, such as a minor support forming below. So let it break the low of that previous weekly candles low, pull back, retest the low of it, form a resistance at it as it begins to pop below support formed at that resistance, previous support, sorry, and pulls away from it, confirming resistance. That I'd be looking for my potential sell options on NAS. Not all that keen on buys at the moment. What I'd be looking for if I was to buy it, so I put sells below at this point here. If I was to consider buying NAS, what I'd be looking for is this. So I'd want it to, first of all, close above this point here, because that will confirm the structures flip back to the upside. So I want to see it pretty clean move, cut through that, maybe even pull back to pretty clean move up towards that 1850 would be great. 18490, 18049, and then pull back, form a support above what would be previous resistance, create some clean moves, come close to 10 way open, get the volume, look for your catalyst within price action to form, first of all, form a support, and look for your potential buy options, take it back up towards a high. To be honest, guys, charts look a mess. Don't force it. Be very patient with it all. I will be myself. I'm not going to force nothing. If it presents, fantastic. If not, so be it. So thanks a lot, guys. Keep an eye out for I'll likely post an MY update as well. And I'll catch you guys shortly on the live streams too. Cheers, guys. Thank you for your patience. Bye for now.